Yes, it has.
Okay. And are there any citizens in the audience that would like to speak to us this evening? We have a large audience, we have lots of students, and we love that. We just love to hear from students. So thanks to your principal for bringing these wonderful students here. We love it. Okay, could we please have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, bright lights. Would you like to introduce the bright lights, Jody?
Sure, absolutely. We have 3 of our principals here today with a great group of rock star students that are going to tell us about the Youth Advisory Council. You're pointing, okay, yeah, Becky Newcomer. Quest is not representing tonight? Okay, so Becky Newcomer has some students from North Inspire, and then James Murray has some students here from STEM Saratoga. They're going to tell you about their recent activities around the Youth Advisory Council and our partnership with the Institute at CISA 1. So thank you for being here today.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Did we forget to introduce someone?
Butler.
No? Butler?
Gotcha. I got it. Thanks. Robbie LaRue is here representing Quest, and he's going to be taking that representing when you come up, right? That's supposedly.
Okay, we got them all? We got them all. Okay. Take it away, Mr. Murray.
All right, so thank you first and foremost to the board for welcoming us this evening. We haven't been here for a while, but it's a pleasure to introduce our panel. I guess before I get started, because my part is about this large and theirs is the main components, we're going to have them introduce themselves and just sort of a couple quick words about where they're from and
Okay.
sort of why they're excited to be here tonight. So.
Great.
I'm Chrissy Mins. I'm a 7th grader at Waukesha STEM Academy Saratoga campus, and I'm here because I participated in the Youth Advisory Council, and I really enjoyed the experience.
I'm Ellie Irado. I'm an 8th grader at the Waukesha STEM Academy, and we're excited to share about the Institute and the Youth Advisory Council.
My name is Sia Verma. I'm an 8th grader at the Waukesha STEM Academy, and I'm here because I like to advocate for personalized learning and the Youth Advisory Council.
My name is Paige Kuhn, and I'm an 8th grader at the Waukesha STEM Academy, and I am here to spread personalized learning and the word about it.
I'm Aiden Linscomb, and I'm an 8th grader, and I'm here as well to spread personalized learning.
I'm John Majewski, and I go to Waukesha North Inspire. I went to Waukesha STEM, and this is, personal learning has always been something I've been interested in.
I'm Luke Matthew. I'm also from Waukesha North Inspire, and I'm here mainly to advocate for personalized learning in a high school environment.
I'm Annika Bachleitner. I'm a 10th grader in Waukesha North's Inspire program, and I'm here because I like to advocate for personalized learning, and I've enjoyed my time on the Youth Advisory Council.
I'm Aiden Anderson, and I'm an 8th grader at Butler Quest, and I'm here to advocate for personalized learning.
I'm Alan Majewski. I'm a junior at Waukesha North, and I did go to the Waukesha STEM Saratoga campus, and I also participated on the CISA Youth Council.
Well, welcome to each one of you.
Okay, thank you, students, very much. So as you can hear, a theme of this evening will be personalized learning, in case you didn't catch that. The Youth Advisory Council is unique in that it gives these students an opportunity to really advocate for not only themselves, but schools around the state of Wisconsin, the Midwest, even insofar as students came in from out of state to participate in this event. I know at STEM we've been doing it for about 7 years, 6 or 7 years, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been probably a few years for our students an opportunity to jump in and plan this event. So instead of just attending now, they plan it as well as Inspire and Quest. It was very cool to see. And then to attend it secondhand and see, not even participate from my standpoint, which I always have, but just sort of, I went and just stood back and watched it. So to see the excitement of the students, the student leaders, to see them running what typically you would see in a school with us, teachers and principals, leaders, coaches running a system, they were running the system. They were the system. So it was very, very neat to see. You talk about student agency, student advocacy, that was the ownership piece right there. So partnership between the Institute at CISA 1, the School District of Waukesha, several other districts, but I truly feel, and I'm not just saying this because we're in front of the SDW board, that we truly had the strongest showing there. It felt good. It felt really good to be there. Just reviewing real quickly the honeycomb, some of the main aspects that we covered during this process, this procedure, and that the students really have internalized. Obviously looking at the outside components, but really the learner profile, customized learning paths, and then proficiency-based pathways. So some of the things you'll hear tonight from the students were not coached, they were not scripted, they're very open-ended questions with maybe 2 bullet points worth of notes. And so we did that very intentionally so that it came from the heart. These are not my words, they're not Crohn's words, or Dr. Crohn's words, or Dr. Rickabau's, they're just from experience that the students embraced. And I know one of the themes that they sort of lived through was that, comparing standards-based learning to competency-based learning, all that was sort of a 30,000-foot view, but really it was the experience of how do students understand this learning? How is it of value to them? What have they taken from this learning? And sort of when they come back to school the next day, how does it impact how they embrace their current systems and the systems of the future as they go on to high school, to college, to the workforce, and beyond. So I am done. We're going to leave it up to the leaders.
Take it away.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is what is the Youth Advisory Council, and an abbreviation is YAC. And basically, it's like a council of students from across southeast Wisconsin, from a bunch of different districts, including Waukesha, there's Kettle Moraine, there's Pewaukee, a lot of different districts. And we're dedicated to promoting and spreading the word about personalized learning throughout many communities and schools. But one of the main ways we do this is by planning an event called the Youth Summit. And schools and districts from all over the Midwest, we had people come from Ohio and Illinois this year, come to learn about personalized learning and find out different ways they can spread it throughout their districts if they don't have it yet, or how they can strengthen it within their schools if they already have it.
So our mission in Youth Advisory Council is to be able to teach others about personalized learning, because without letting people know what personalized learning is, there is no way that we will be able to have a revolutionary step in our education. And in order for us to implement our personalized learning into more schools in the school district of Waukesha and beyond, we have to make sure we have things like this where people are educated about this and people know how to take it back, which is something that we did in Youth Advisory Council. Something in the Youth Summit that we focused on is how people can take that information back. And lastly, we wanted to be able to improve the quality of students' experiences in school using self-advocacy, which allows them to pretty much go to teachers whenever they might need it, really take that initiative in their learning to be able to make sure they're getting what they receive or what they're needing in their education. And we also want to make sure they have student agency tools, so they're able to take charge of their learning environments, maybe where they're sitting physically, or maybe it is where they learn best. Sometimes it's what pace they need to work at. Some students may be able to finish a unit a week. Some people might take a few weeks. So it honestly depends on what they want to do as well. Inquiry-based, a lot of that, based on what they want to do and what they're interested in, they're able to take their education and make projects out of that or do whatever they feel like they need to do. And also we have the personalized learning tools, which we have continuums and portfolios, which have a lot of what the students have learned throughout the year, so they're able to reflect on what they have done throughout the year, see their growth, really be able to reflect on their learning to be able to figure out exactly what their next steps are and how they've been doing. And to do that, we use kind of online programs like Alex and Blackboard 9, which is also through eAchieve, so students are able to work at their own pace for various subjects.
So one thing that we really focused on participating in a lot in the Youth Advisory Council is we focused a lot on collaboration, and usually when we got there, we always did like a small icebreaker where we would go and talk to the other kids about personalized learning in their school and how it might be different from ours, whether that be like a small bingo game that has different ideas about your school in it, and it really allows you to talk to other students, and you can all be ambassadors for personalized learning in your own way. And that's something we talk about a lot in YAC as well, because we're all ambassadors for personalized learning, whether that be different for each school. And that's what we really focus on, is how you can bring in ideas from your school to other schools, and how you can take in other people's ideas and see how you can improve your school. And that's why we also have a lot of self-reflective work and goal-oriented work, where we can show what we learned and how we can bring it back to our school, and show how we can help other people using our ideas and our objectives from our school. And then we also, one of the main things, as Paige and Allie were saying earlier, is we plan parts of the youth summit, and we usually got the agenda for the day, and we each got to take a different part of it. So for example, I decided to work in one of the breakout sessions, but there's also an introduction session, there was also an afternoon session, a closing session, there's different breakout sessions, so you can really show what you've learned in a different way and show it to other schools through the youth summit, which was really cool this year as well.
So, what benefits? So, some benefits we have gained from this experience is, well, we have been able to see what the lack of personalized learning and how that can impact a school. Also, we've been shown how to take personalized learning and apply it to our schools and to reinforce what we already have. We have also gotten the opportunity to present for many people to benefit the entire school system. And as well, we have acquired leadership skills that help us spread the word about personalized learning.
Just before we go ahead here, we'd like to also make sure that the folks from Inspire and then Quest have a chance to participate. So if you have anything to throw in, feel free to just jump in and grab the mic, sort of like a concert, American Idol style.
Some benefits that I've gained from this experience is learning from just all the other leaders and just seeing what they do, and just kind of almost skipping the step of failure and just being able to just kind of just go far along in this process instead of wasting your time on just useless mistakes.
Yeah, I think one of the main benefits has been being able to go at your own pace, mainly because it skips the step of having to wait a day to do another assignment, or to be held back because of others, or maybe you need to hold back because you don't understand a concept. So that is really what really helped me in personalized learning.
One benefit that I've gained by meeting other student leaders is just becoming more comfortable talking about my ideas in ways that can make our schools better. And I think because of that, a lot of the, I guess, competitive aspect where we all want our schools to do the best they can. And I think a lot of times students like to brag about their schools, but with the Youth Advisory Council, it kind of took away that competitive aspect, and it allowed all of us to be seen as equals and share our ideas in a way that helps others instead of trying to, I guess, be the top school. So it really allowed us to work together more, and I really appreciated that.
I believe that one benefit from personalized learning that has helped me is learner voice infused, because I have a choice in what I learn about. I also have, like Luke said, I have my own pace that I can work at, that I can learn at my own pace.
As you've heard from everyone else, we've learned a lot from participating in the Youth Advisory Council. So personally, some of the things that I've learned is that personalized learning should be a regular thing. It shouldn't be a privilege. So everyone should have access to personalized learning. And we've also seen how to incorporate personalized learning into our schools on a daily basis and in other places as well. And we're also able to see what places are in need of personalized learning. And we use the Youth Summit to show what benefits come from personalized learning and like how it's helpful to each student individually. We also looked into the core aspects of personalized learning, and we showed all the ways that it can be incorporated, as basically everyone has said. And it allows us a different perspective on personalized learning and how it works from different standpoints, from the standpoints of teachers, high school students, middle school students, everyone. So.
And I just wanted a quick add-in on that. My school has a lot of personalized learning within it, but before I joined the Youth Advisory Council, I didn't really know anything about what personalized learning was. We never really saw the honeycomb model. We didn't understand the components of our learning that made it personalized. We didn't really even know that our learning was personalized, and I think it's important that all students know about their learning and how they're being educated, and through the Youth Advisory Council, I was really able to fully understand the way I was being taught.
Another thing to add on, this is all about personalized learning. When people hear that, a lot of people just think maybe they have like comfortable seating arrangements, students are able to choose what they want to do, self-advocacy. Sometimes, since every single student is different, they might be okay with the mainstream traditional school. They may feel that it's best for them to learn with the rest of the class. Maybe they like desks and rows. So it's not necessarily this huge changed environment, crazy chairs or whatever it might be. Some students like that kind of style. And so we want to make sure with personalized learning, we're not just saying it's all kind of going to be more loose, independent, things like that, because some students do need more structured classes like that. So that's also a part of the personalized learning because they're able to choose what they want to do, and that is also a part of it. It's not just all crazy things that people are able to choose from. We might have something more traditional for those students.
So I no longer attend a personalized learning school. I'm at Waukesha North, but I did attend a personalized learning school when I went to middle school, and I do like the structure better, and that was my choice. I chose not to be an Inspire, but I do try to take aspects of the personalized learning and apply it to the structured form of the class. Like if a teacher is going too fast, I'll like, hey, can you slow down a little bit? Like I don't understand. Or if I'm really just struggling with something, I'll be like, can I have extra practice, not to take away time from class that I can do on my own? And I try to work around their schedule while still meeting my needs.
You ready for questions or not?
Yeah.
Yes, at this point, I think we've heard some amazing examples. And brutally honest, too, which I love because there's things you probably wouldn't hear in a hallway or discussion that you hadn't solicited if this hadn't taken place. So it's cool for me especially to hear that in a school that's tried and true and we feel is so tied to personalized learning. When students that are part of the youth advisory say that they weren't aware of the honeycomb, it's this flashing red bulb above my head too. So very real commentary. So we very much appreciate everybody here, but definitely if you have questions for the panel, thank you.
We do. Are you ready for some questions? Some tough ones? Okay. Mr. Baumgart.
Hi. First of all, a comment. Awesome. You guys are doing I mean, your ability to communicate with us was exceptional. Just exceptional. And I have to tell you that right off the get-go. Some people would be bashful about it, but you shared some very interesting perspectives, and we appreciate that. One in particular caught my mind, and I'm sorry I didn't catch all the names and pay attention or write them down or anything. The young lady at the blue iPad there, what was her name? Paige. In your comments, excuse me, you talked about being able to get, I think, closer to the teachers, one-on-one with the teachers. Do you feel that that's happening?
It depends on what the students like. They may like working better in a group, but yes, I do feel like, especially in my school, we're able to go one-on-one with our teachers. And even though they might have a class of 50 students, they might have a class of 15 students, you might not always get that one-on-one time, but when we do, we really value it because we get that direct student-teacher feedback telling you exactly what you need to work on, really get to the point, concise, know what you're going to do, you know all your ways to improve, or you know ways maybe that you need to work ahead, maybe slow down a bit. So that one-on-one teacher time, you really are able to build a relationship with them very well because getting that direct feedback is something that you shouldn't take for granted.
That's an exceptionally important point you made. And I think it carried over, I'm sorry, again, your name, you're a senior at North?
I'm junior.
Junior at North. In your ability to take some of the concepts from the personalized learning, even though you're not in that environment by definition, for you to be able to pick up some of the things you had at STEM
Yep.
and continue to apply them. And that's good, because I think that we would like to have that kind of opportunity for all of the, to talk to the teachers. The teachers, there should not be a barrier between you and the teachers. And believe me, in another age, there were a lot of barriers between us and the
You were in
teachers.
charge.
But, to hear you say that you've been able to take some of that and apply it was very interesting to me, and I appreciated your comments a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baumgart. I'd like to know, what is the role of the teacher in personalized learning? Could you be a little bit more specific?
Well, when we talk about personalized learning, one of the biggest things we discuss is the collaboration between the student and the teacher. And we see it as the teacher needs to listen to the student and really understand the student so that they can work together to figure out what the student's next steps are, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and how they can best teach the student based on where they're at and where they can go.
So then the teacher tends to work more one-on-one with the students rather than speaking or teaching to the whole class?
It depends. Usually we have like some kind of mini lesson, so an instructor time. But after that, there's usually just work time, and then the teachers will come around and discuss with the students one-on-one about what they're working on, if they need any help from the teacher, what the teacher could be doing to better help them understand the material, things like that.
Does a teacher ever, do any, like at the beginning of a lesson, does she do an introduction and give you information, and then you go off and do your own thing?
Yes, during most classes.
Is that pretty common style, where the teacher starts by giving you some information, new information, and then you on your own go off and do activities to help you learn what the teacher said?
Yes, definitely.
Do I have it?
Yes.
Good. Because I'm a teacher, and this is pretty new to me. And in order for me to do this, I would have to be trained. And you got another teacher here, too, Mr. Dietz, former teacher. So you got two teachers here, and believe me, we did not teach like this, did we, Mr. Dietz? Mm-mm. The teacher was in charge, and it was not always good. And those poor kids used to end up listening to us talk a lot. And that's not true over there at STEM, is it? You're doing the work, not the teacher. This is wonderful. Just wonderful. And like Mr. Baumgart, I'm very impressed with your communication skills. My. You're like, well-educated adults, and here you are, well-educated middle school kids. I'm so proud of you. Any other questions? Yes, Karen.
Thank you. I believe it was Aiden.
Me?
Yes.
All
Aiden,
right.
you spoke of what?
All right.
All right, here we go. Aiden, you spoke about your, I don't know if it was your perception, if you go into schools with lack of personalized learning, or if you're actually at this summit speaking with principals that want personalized learning in theirs, and you're trying to give them some feedback of your learning. Okay, so tell me more about that. Have you gone into schools that don't have it at all and have seen?
We haven't really done that. Yeah.
Okay, so you're more just, you know that they're out there.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna ask how you kind of bring that in. Okay, but you're not there. One thing I see from all of you is confidence. And even when you, let's see, Anna, when you went over to North and you're at North, you brought that confidence to be able to say, be an advocate for yourself and to say, hey, I don't understand this. I'm actually this style of learner. If you could explain it to me in this way, I'd really get it much faster, or whatever it was. You were able to take that on your journey, and then you'll use that in college and wherever you want to go, if you're not going to college or whatever. No pressure. But I just see that through all of you, and applaud you all. Thank you. Thank you for being here and explaining this to us. And then one other thing I just thought of, I believe it was Lucia?
Me?
Tell me your name one more time.
My name is Sia,
Sia. Okay, sorry. Is it CIA?
SIYA.
Okay, thank you. SIYA. Okay, so when you were talking about being a student on student advisory council and educating people about what that is, so then you help us to be a community advisory council so that we can explain it too. So thank you for doing that, because then the message just gets carried, and people like Barbara and myself and all of us will then understand it and better be able to help you, support you. So thank you.
A question about personalized learning as far as your communication to the teachers that you work with. Are you meeting with each and every teacher and talking about your needs and how you best learn, or is that communicated across the staff? How does that work?
So at least at our school, we have this time called Connect and Flex, where we can meet with different teachers depending on what schoolwork we need to get done. So what's really great about this time is you can connect with the teachers that you really need to. So if you're not really understanding a math problem or you need to catch up on math, you can always go in at that time to meet with the teacher, which is really great, like we were saying before, with the teacher relationships and get some one-on-one time. So Connect and Flex are a really good option for if you don't need a mini lesson right away and you just want to talk to the teacher. So it's kind of like the work time of the class, but you can just connect instead of having a mini lesson.
Awesome.
How long does that period last?
Connect is an hour, but half of it's for lunch. So you have 30 minutes for Connect, and then twice a week we have Flex, unless we have Flex days, which are
Okay.
longer periods of time, but those are 1 hour in the morning.
But you follow the same curriculum that students in other middle schools follow, is that correct?
Yeah, we just, Connect and Flex are just like an extra, almost like a study hall, except it's a little bit more freedom. But
You learn differently. You're more on your own, and you consult with each other. You know, that's very interesting because, you know, when I was learning to become a teacher, I remember that one of the key factors in helping students to learn was they learn best from each other. That was pretty incredible because in my day, you know, I was the boss, and the kids learned what, you know, I followed a curriculum, et cetera. But here, the teacher does help you learn, but you really go off on your own, and you probably, do you gather more information on the topic?
yeah, I think that, like you said, working with other students is also like a great time, especially during Connect and Flex, because maybe you have a friend who's in a higher math class than you,
Yes.
and you can help tutor. I actually help tutor some kids during Connect because the teachers recommended it, so it's a really good time to learn from other students as well.
Could one of you students tell me how the teachers assess what you've learned so that you can get a grade? Or do you get grades in each subject? Okay. How does the teacher assess?
Well, in every single subject, at least for STEM, they tie back to the same core components. Like, for example, math might tie back, one of them is precision, and for science, one of them might be models in science, like graphs and things like that. So when we have those core concepts, the teachers allow students to branch out and do projects as long as they cover those certain targets. Like, I know in geometry and stuff like that, we have these, you can make presentations, you can make videos as long as they show proficiency for a standard. And I know a lot of the teachers work really hard to be able to assess the students. Like, sometimes on my iPad, I'll see a notification pop up 11 at night or something. They're still grading and stuff. So with that, they make sure they're able to talk to the student. Like, we have formatives for the most part where they're able to assess where you are, give you feedback. So on the summative, you can do really well and be where you want to be. And that's also the same with a lot of subjects. Like, students can choose to do projects, essays. They can choose to do a lot of things as long as they cover the same components. So as long as the teachers see that component shown throughout that project or whatever they might choose to do, they would get a proficient on it.
Simply amazing. Simply amazing. You really, really, really are great learners. You have really an advantage, I think. I'm not saying that students in other schools don't learn well, but they do. But, you know, learning is a personal thing, and you really show how personalized learning really, really, really works. I'm extremely impressed. I'm going to have to come and visit you. Now, just last question is, tell me about a math class. How do you learn in a math class?
So math classes are structured differently depending on where you're at.
Uh-huh.
So I'm in Algebra 2,
Yes.
which I'm learning on eAchieve. So I'm using Blackboard 9 to learn all of the course material, and it's really cool because they give you lesson material, so they give you presentations, textbooks, videos, whatever you use best to learn, and they allow you to cover content in whatever way you feel comfortable doing. But it's all like the same, so everybody's learning in the same thing. And then they'll give you practice assessments, and then they'll give you summative assessments, and they'll grade you based on that. And if you don't get a certain score, then you can try again. And if you're not happy with your score, then you can email a teacher with your
Good.
answers. So it's very nice that way.
How would you explain the role of the teacher?
I think that teachers are there to instruct and advise.
Really?
So, like, yeah, they'll give you mini lessons and they'll like tell you stuff, but then they're really good at giving feedback and like telling you where your next steps should be, whether you should maybe, whether it's like suggesting maybe you go back and review some things, or if they want, they'll allow you or advise you to work ahead. So it's very nice that way, where you can like talk to teachers about where you want to be
And you
where
tell
you're
me if I'm wrong. It sounds to me like the teacher isn't the dispenser of information. He or she is a facilitator. Is that correct? Wow. Very impressed.
And
Yes.
one more thing about that, there are like the self-paced, more self-paced route does work for some students at a
Yes.
school.
Yes.
But there are other options for students who don't work as well in the self-paced and they need more guidance. So there's different paths for different students.
Well, would you say that you're very independent learners?
Yes.
Yes, I would agree, very independent. Well, Mr. Murray, very exciting learnings going on at your school. Mr. Baumgart?
One last comment. You probably are in the very small minority of people that can actually use the word summative and formative without screwing it up. And I was amazed to hear that come out repeatedly, that you understand the difference between the final testing and the progressive testing to help you form. Wonderful. I think you probably got teachers that haven't figured that out yet, but, oh, I didn't say that, I didn't say that.
That's teacher language, Mr. Baumgart.
I hope.
That's teacher language.
Barbara,
Yes.
I'd like to add on to what you said too about Tim McDonald wrote a book about split screen approach and looking at a legacy model and a progressive model, such as the personalized learning. I love what the young lady at the opposite of my end said. It's not about a school being better than another school. It's all about schools owning what they're doing and having the students eventually take over that ownership piece. And I think that's what all these students have recognized, which our program models are turning the teachers more into coaches. They're instructing them, the students more about how to think and not what to think. And eventually that instructing turns more into coaching, turns more into advising.
Sure.
Hit it right on the head. So it's never a better than option. So I love that you said that, because it's everybody's on a level playing field. I think everybody's just doing it differently right now, and everybody deserves a lot of respect, especially in this district, first and foremost. So thank you for having us tonight.
Thanks for coming.
Well, I'm so proud of you. Best wishes and in your continued learning. I can see that you kids are going to continue to be great learners. Keep it up. It's wonderful. What a wonderful experience. And I'm so proud of Waukesha that we provide that experience for those kids that are interested. So good luck to you in the future. And I got to come see you learn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. You know, I don't know if I could learn that way because it's so different. It wasn't perfect. You think so? And why? Gee, that's nice. You never even saw me teach.
I'll go over there in a
Teaching was different, though.
Go now.
Greg knows it. We were the dispensers of knowledge, period. Yeah.
Stay tuned in.
Well, sure you do.
Remarkable.
No. It wouldn't work real well with those kids because they're not independent enough, right? Yes. I would agree. It's not for everyone. But those kids those smart kids, those independent learners, wow.
Gotta offer it.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just awesome.
Offer whatever works.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Okay,
They love that. They love to come and see us, I know.
we love to
Especially
talk,
Dan.
we love to talk about math. So now you're gonna challenge us to
Okay.
to see if we can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. We're all good at that, but after that, whatever. Okay, Jody, you want to introduce our presenters?
Well, Dan and Rose are here, and I'm just thrilled. We kind of have a math celebration theme going on this evening. So they're going to start out with just giving you a brief overview of our K-12 vision, which in and of itself is a celebration, that we have two high performers working on a K-12 systematic vision. And so they're going to give you an outline of that this evening, and then they're going to wrap back around later on with some smaller components of AVMR and math recovery. But we'll start here, and they'll be the stars of the show tonight
Okay.
next. So.
Welcome to both of you. You're going to challenge us, huh?
Yeah, thank you, Barb. As Jody said, we are looking at our 4K through 12 mathematics program. And 3 years ago, Dan came on as our secondary math coordinator. And at that point, we started talking about what makes up that exemplary math program, what makes it a 4K through 12 program here in the school district of Waukesha, because that's really what we wanted to develop. So 3 years ago, we got together and we created what we call our math vision. And in our math vision, we looked at teaching and learning, access and equity, curriculum, tools and technology. We've brought that to you before. Tonight, we're really going to focus in on our teaching and learning and what are some of the things we have done across the district to look at our math program, to develop a full program that includes all grade levels and all students. So when you move ahead, the first thing we're going to look at is just a quick video, and I'm going to let Dan introduce this.
Yeah, so just to kind of summarize the problem we're trying to attack is this idea that we want kids to think, right? That's the number one goal that we have, is we want them to be able to think and be flexible with their thinking and attack things from multiple angles. This is a video, this is not of our students, but this was actually a recreation of a study done in 1986 around this problem that you'll see. And we're finding the same thing in our classrooms. So this is actually the problem we're trying to attack every day in our math classrooms.
There are 125 sheep and 5 dogs in the flock. How old is the shepherd?
125 sheep and 5 dogs in the flock. How old is a shepherd? I don't know how to solve this.
Why is that?
Because it doesn't talk about anything about the shepherd. Like, it doesn't say how old, like how long he's had them or anything. So like, it doesn't give me any hints about anything. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. There are 125 sheep and 5 dogs in a flock. How old is the shepherd?
$120 years old.
How do you know it's 120? Can you please write down? Now, how do you know that the shepherd is 120 years old?
Because I subtract 125 minus the in a flock.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry. What that video goes on to do is you actually get very few kids answer this correctly. We get to the end of this study.
Thank you. Can you tell me, how did you know to divide?
Because it doesn't say the difference, or it doesn't say the sum, or the project, or something.
I see.
This is, like I said, a recreation of of what we see. In math class, typically, if you're looking at 8th graders, 3 out of 4 students will give a numerical answer when there was no numerical answer. It's not meant to be a trick problem, but what our students are doing is they just pick numbers out and they say, well, I'll add this time, I'll divide next time, I'll subtract the next time. And they really didn't look at the totality of that problem. And they do that with the word problems that you saw right there, or in bigger problems. That's what we're seeing. And like I said, this is a classic problem if there was one in mathematics. We're seeing the same thing. What we don't want is we want thinking and thinkers versus people who just get the answer, just correct numerical answers. We're seeing kids pluck numbers out and use them. They're procedural heavy. What I mean is they're like robots. They get 2 numbers and they go through and they crunch the numbers. They don't think about it. They don't think how to do it the quickest way or the most efficient way. They just go at it and start going. We want them to get the right answer, but we want them to think about it and be flexible and experience what they're thinking. So what we're going to be doing is talking a little bit about how we're attacking that problem.
Just tell me what the answer was for that. I mean, they were 2 totally unrelated statements.
There was no answer. So the first person who did it and said, that doesn't make sense,
Yes,
that was the response
what
we
I
were
saw.
looking for, just
There
like
was-
you're saying.
There's no answer.
Right.
Great.
So one of the things that we're doing is trying to figure out what are those high leverage practices we want every math teacher to be exposing students to. And so you can see up here, there are 4 that we call our big rocks. Number 1, problem solving and task selection. Making sure that we're giving students high quality tasks so that they can think through those problems, that they can see that there might be multiple ways to get to a solution, but there's also a way to think, does that solution make sense? We want discourse, whether it's verbal or written, that our students are able to talk math as well as to write about math, write about their thinking and talk about their thinking. So we're including discourse as a high leverage practice. Thirdly, we have small guided groups and collaborative groups. We know that students working together and that teachers facilitating learning in those small guided groups is where we can meet the needs of our students. It's where we can help to individualize, personalize the learning depending upon where our students are at. And finally, looking at our integration of technology. We know that technology is something that we have in our vision as a district. We are one-to-one. We have 10 Marks and Dreambox as programs here in our math curriculum for students to use, and we want to make sure we're integrating that as well as our core apps so students are being able to show their thinking and to creatively use their technology to show that thinking.
So the best way to actually show you what we would like math to be is actually experience it. So maybe you step out of your comfort zone a little bit. You're not going to have to give any answers, but we're going to go through what we call task selection. What is a high-level math task compared to what we just saw, a lower-level math task? So go ahead and take a moment to read this example to yourself and be ready to discuss it with the person next to you. Audience, you too. So go ahead and take a moment to talk with the person next to you. You probably have a lot of questions.
We're gonna have to find out how many days, I think.
How many minutes a day? That's not how much a day. Right. Well, the day they started elementary school. So they learned what's elementary school would be the definition. Like in Oconomowoc, elementary school stops at 4th grade. It's like elementary schools. And then you're through 4th grade. You know. Depends the district.
Absolutely.
I went to school, there was no full day equivalent for 5K.
There's no facts in there.
And snack. So we learned for about.
All right, I'm going to pull you back.
No facts in there.
So end your discourse with your math partners.
You had, well, basically, you did a lousy job preparing that question.
I hope the kids aren't getting that.
So this is a really rich problem because of all the questions that are swirling in your head right now. What's recommended? How many times should you brush your teeth a day? What is a full day equivalent? Right? You're asking yourselves, do we include all 365 days or 180 days? You're asking yourselves all the questions that someone in the real world would have to ask themselves to answer a question in mathematics. So we didn't give you enough time to find an answer, but you'd had to make judgments, and you've had to have made decisions as a group and as partners to come up with one. And you would have had to make some assumptions as well. Let's take a look at this problem. Same context, different, a little bit more information.
Well, there's some numerical information.
In this problem, you can see there's more information.
Yes, there's more information.
Look at this problem. So I'm going to ask you this, and you can just ponder it, and we can come back to it if we want to a little bit later, but these three tasks are very similar in terms of their context, but the feel of them are very, very different, right? At the very beginning, the first task we gave you, like I said, you have to make decisions. You have to decide things. You have to think. You have to be a critical thinker. Sometimes not. You don't have to be that abstract. But as we went to the second problem and to the third problem, the problems actually got easier,
Right.
where you were just pulling numbers and getting the answer. And in fact, almost to a point where you didn't have to think very much. What research tells us is that not all tasks are created equal. If I would have giving our students the first task is a much richer problem. It puts them through a different series of experiences compared to the last task, right? Statistics tell us that students learning is the greatest in the classroom where the task consistently encourages high levels of thinking and reasoning, and least in classrooms where tasks are routinely procedural in nature, where you're plucking numbers and putting them into a pattern and just crunching out the answer. And that's what we're really trying to tackle K-12 through our whole entire mathematics curriculum. Question?
Question number 1 was unsolvable. There wasn't enough data, so all I got was frustrated that you didn't supply me the proper question or the proper, not question, the proper, you didn't give me a problem I could solve, so I thought it was your problem. You know, I was,
That would be the teacher's problem.
I was like, well, you know, they have a serious problem if they think I'm so. In the end, I never got to actually do math. I just went into.
Absolutely. And the problems that we want to give our students are problems that they can't solve in 1 minute. So we didn't give you enough adequate time or enough of that because of the venue we're in right now. But we actually want kids to ask those critical questions. Is there enough information? What information do I need? And go and find it. We can always go back and give them all the numbers, and they can plug and chug and find a numerical answer. We really want them to reason. And even when they're reasoning, if they would have said, well, our group decided to use, everybody should brush their teeth 3 times a day, that's great. They found their number and they were reasoning about it. If they decided to do 180 days or 365 days, they found it. And in the end, they're still going to be making the calculations, and we can judge them based on accuracy, based on the numbers they picked.
And you know what I'm going to ask you?
Yeah.
No matter how much thinking they do on that first problem, if you haven't taught them how to multiply 2 numbers together, they still can't solve it.
Absolutely.
You got them thinking, but they can't solve it. You know that foundation is still critically important.
Hugely important. And
They
in
get
that-
this from me all the time, so that
Yeah.
they're used to dealing with me on this
That,
question.
that whole topic of number sense is hugely important to us. And we wouldn't stop that short and just not allow an answer to come out of that. And all that pre-work and the flexible thinking around numeracy would happen ahead of time, because it has to, just like you said.
Stay tuned to the next presentation. It'll get at that.
You knew you'd see me here tonight, didn't you?
So what are we doing within our district to support this with our teachers, to support math learning with our students? One of the things that we have shared with you before is our continuum development. We have worked this year through 4K through 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade are continuing to be added on. So teachers can look at this and know where students are at and where are their next steps in learning. In addition to the continuum, we have planning tools for teachers to use, whether it's this one that is here, which is what is a rigorous math task, how do we decide what are good quality math tasks to give our students, as well as planning tools for planning instruction, for planning small guided group. All of those key characteristics and things that we want to see in their lessons. Finally, we have common assessments that have been established K through 12, so that we know across our system, students, no matter what building they are in, are having access to the same assessments, and we can see how our instruction is matching out across all of our buildings. Finally, we have professional development that we're doing with our teachers, whether it's through our Summer Institute that we have at the beginning of the year, or TDP courses, or I have book studies going on. All of those are possible ways for our teachers to continue to gain expertise in the knowledge around those high leverage practices, whether it's problem solving, discourse, small guided groups or collaborative work, or even the integration of technology.
Our next steps are going to be these 5 things we've outlined for the upcoming year and years to come. The one thing we need to continue to do is build the capacity of our leaders, our principals, our coaches, and ourselves. And we're going to be start kicking that off this summer. We're going to continue to align our 4K through 12 language, meaning that when I talk about math tasks and she talks about math tasks, we're going to use that same language. So the connections start to become more apparent, because right now we're using a little bit different language, which we didn't present that here tonight. We're going to extend our continuums to include 7th and 8th grade, and then eventually get up into the high school, where we can actually track and see where students are in terms of their learning progressions. We're also right now, which is great that AVMR is presenting a little bit later, we're starting to develop what we're going to be calling our math intervention structures, and our organization around what happens when a student falls behind or isn't on track or isn't in that right spot on that continuum. How can we help them get back up to where their peers are and where they want to be? And finally, we're going to continue to vet out some supporting resources, whether it be technology resources like 10 Marks and Dreambox, or our Blackboard resources that we're currently building with our teachers and our teams of teachers that do our common assessments. 3 years into this, I'm really excited. I think we have a lot to celebrate. And right now, we'd like to take any comments, thoughts, questions. It's great to see something like this on Twitter. We do celebrate, for those of you on Twitter, you can search hashtag SDWMath, and you can find a whole bunch of pictures. Actually, every one of these pictures that we see up here today were taken by our staff or community members that put that hashtag out there, and celebrate what we're doing in math in Waukesha. This is a young girl who's in our community that's wearing an I Love Math shirt. And like I tell everybody else, is that everybody in Waukesha loves math. And that's what we need to continue to tell our young students, because if we tell them it enough, it'll eventually come true.
Barbara?
Yes, Mr. Baumgart.
I was taken by you mentioned about the fact that we have a language in the elementary schools, math language in elementary schools, and secondary schools may be different. Can you give us any kind of an example of what we're talking about? 'Cause I mean, I believe it's critically important that we bring those together, so it's a seamless.
Absolutely. So the easiest one to connect with is at the elementary schools. A lot of times, you saw it in our presentation, we talk about using small guided groups. And at the high school level, we're leveraging this time where kids get to struggle with math problems. We're going to be using what we call collaborative groups. So that's an example of two different series of languages that we're going to try to continue to mesh and connect together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It would seem to me that before kids could do some of the problems that you showed, don't you think they have to have a solid background in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And so how do they learn those facts?
They learn it in a variety of ways.
Okay.
Our approach to getting kids to learn number sense is through working with things and hands-on experiences, with counters, with blocks, transitioning them to pictures, and then finally getting them to those routines or those procedures that we see, addition, subtraction, multiplication. So kids can understand it in something that they can physically touch to something that's rather abstract.
So the questions that you had up there, who would successfully complete any of those?
Right now, a variety of our kids, because right now those attack not necessarily a grade level skill. If I was looking at content, that was
Okay.
all about addition and multiplication.
Okay.
So we're looking anywhere from
Fourth,
third
fourth.
grade through fourth, fifth grade, right?
Right, okay.
And a variety of our kids could tackle that, but that would be a challenge for any of us.
Sure it would.
I was going to say, so thinking about problem-solving tasks, we have problem-solving tasks for our kindergartners on up. Problem-solving tasks for our kindergartners might be, there are 10 apples in a box. Some of them are red and some of them are green. What are the different combinations that could be in the box? So kids can actually take out their green crayons and draw apples, or you could have counter apples, and they can see 1 green, 9 red, 2 green, and they
So
could
they
come up
regroup
with.
them.
They could do groups, they could actually manipulate the concrete objects, but there isn't just one answer.
No.
They can think through it. That's where you get some of the discourse, because I might think one way and say, well, there's only one answer, and the only answer is 1 and 9, whereas somebody else say, nope, it's 5 and 5.
Sure.
And we can start to have that problem solving, that critical thinking, even at a kindergarten level, but it's with very simple type of problems.
Okay. Wow. Other comments? Yes, Ms. Ronchek?
Probably not going to be able to sleep tonight because of that first problem. So, I'm
Good, you're
serious.
thinking math.
That was our gift to everybody tonight.
Thank you. I'll call you at 2 a.m. No, but really, do you give that problem to our students? Like, would you say, all right, in 5th grade, we're gonna try this out today, and we're just gonna, see how far they get with this? Because the problem I have with Common Core is, on some of them, it doesn't matter if you get the correct answer, and that is like, it does. It's math. 2 plus 2 is 4. You need to get that. So if you gave this to them, or that to them, would you say, all right, try to solve this problem? And then when they couldn't, say, okay, what's wrong? And if they said there's not enough data, okay, great, next step, we're gonna let you brainstorm. What is the data you need? Okay, how long does he spend brushing his teeth? In our district, elementary school is K through 5. Well, sometimes it's K through, there's a lot of data you need. So then do you give them credit for thinking, using critical thinking skills, and actually thinking of what that data is, and then maybe trying to solve their problem? Do you actually get them from point A, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just leave them on that like you did with me, did you?
No.
So I have some math teachers here, because they're going to help me with the next presentation. Would you just leave them hanging?
No, I was thinking this whole time I gave a very similar problem this estimate how many Skittles.
Uh-huh.
And their first topic was just to think about how many there would be, but then they break it down into fun size bags that you get at Halloween, and they figure out that there are how many fun size bags were used, and did that change their opinion about how many Skittles were in the jar. And then I told them there were 58 bags, and did that change their opinion about how many Skittles were in the jar. And then we were making estimates the whole time about how many Skittles might be in each bag. So there's these various layers of the
Right.
reasoning throughout the task, but you wouldn't ever leave them. That wouldn't be your last question of the day. No.
So from a real teacher perspective, who's doing it in the classroom, there you have it.
Thank you. I'll sleep. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Greaves.
I think a couple takeaways that I've seen over the last few years in math is that I think kids understand math a lot more than what they did when I was a student. When I just memorized, I was a good memorizer and learned things quickly, but I don't know that I fully understood it. And also the importance of kids explaining multiple ways of coming up with an answer. Those are things that I've seen over the last few years that
Yes.
I'm encouraged about, not only in this district, but in other schools as well. So you guys are doing a great job with that. So
Thank
keep
you.
it up.
Is it true that kids don't work math, but they learn how math works?
Never heard it.
Give
put
it
that
back
way.
to him, Barb.
Yeah. Good, you're making us think. See? Thanks for the gift.
It's true. See, I
I'm going to be
think,
thinking about that at 2 o'clock this
well,
morning.
right, but I think
Great way to think about it.
from
right there.
seeing what my grandkids do, they just don't work math. They're figuring out how math works in many, many different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we hope they think through it, so eventually at a point, it makes so much sense to them that they can do it,
Sure.
and do it naturally and efficiently.
Sure. When would you say that our kids are familiar with all of the facts that you need to learn to do math? When would you say that they know all the facts?
They should know all addition, subtraction,
should.
multiplication, and division definitely by the time they leave elementary. 4th grade, I would
Okay.
say, would be,
Okay.
they're starting multiplication 2nd and 3rd grade. They should be getting there. I would say by 4th, 5th grade, it should be solidified.
I'm somewhat surprised if I used to say to my elementary school grandkids, I don't have any anymore, but I'd say, how much is 5 times 6? They'd go. If you ask us, how much is 5 times 6, what's the answer, Greg?
30.
Yeah, 30.
Memorized it, though.
Yeah. Well, no, we didn't understand what it looked like.
And I didn't even bring this
Didn't
up.
understand what? Your math facts?
Well, that's pretty. Do kids just get numbers, plain old numbers, to add, subtract, multiply, and divide?
Let me add to that question.
Pardon me?
I agree with you, so I want to add to that question. Example. Kids learn sight reading by looking at a word and recognizing the word. Why can't they look at 2 times 3 as a sight, read that sight, and know it's 2 times 3 equals 6? I think, yeah.
I'll take that one. I think the goal is to eventually get them to a point where they get there. But we don't want to skip all the thinking that gets them there. Because then when they get to a question, I've asked this question to a student in front of you, right?
A senior
I-
in
you
high
know,
school.
I just at our last professional development conference, we asked one of our students who was there helping, quick, 212 divided by 2. That's not something you memorize, but something you have to think through. We want them to get to a point where they're really comfortable with their base facts, so those are the benchmarks of the ideas they go back to numerically calculate a bigger problem. And the process that we take them through to get them there is really, really important. Traditionally, throughout the United States, only 50% of our citizens are good at math,
I believe it.
right? So the process we take to get them there, we need to do a little bit differently, but the end goal is still the same. We just need to attack it a little bit different to get more students proficient at mathematics.
What do you call proficient at mathematics?
Well, it's different for each kid, but what we'd really like them to do is get through all of our state standards up through Algebra 2. That's the ultimate goal. Are we there yet, 100%? No, but we're trying to be. We're trying to get there, and that's our ultimate goal.
Just like, some kids, don't really learn how to read until maybe second grade, et cetera. But are you saying that when our kids, or I'm asking you, when our kids are done with elementary school in Waukesha, do they know their facts?
If I said every kid knew it 100%, I can't say that for sure. But is that the goal? Yeah.
Is that the goal?
Absolutely.
See, I would think, I would hope it's the goal.
Right. And we, some days they know it, and the next day they might not. But that's what we're trying to solve. We want them to know it all the time.
So what would you say, we have to do to help them learn it?
I'm going to defer to our next presentation of Advantage Math Recovery and AVMR. It's going to show you a lot about that number sense and what we're moving forward, just so we don't tackle it twice tonight. I think it's going to be great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
Guys,
Wow. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You really got all of us
Well done.
thinking here. And yeah, I'll be laying in the bed tonight thinking about the shepherd.
how old was the shepherd?
Thank you very
Stop
much.
it, Barbara.
What?
You'll be counting sheep, Barb.
They recount the sheep in the flock.
Yeah,
There's
right.
125 of them.
Right. Jody, will you take us to our next presentation?
Chased
That's
by 5
fun.
dogs.
All right, our first action item for your consideration this evening is going to be represented by, Dan Kieser is going to kick us off, but Rick Nettesheim is here representing the teacher around the area of both the theater course and the acting course that we're asking for your approval on via eAchieve this evening, so.
Good evening. Taking a little break from math, even though as a math teacher, I would talk about it all night long. And I have my own answer for the first question, but I won't digress.
The shepherd.
The action item we have 2 action items before you this evening, and typically, reason why they're coming at this time is because these are eAchieve courses and they fall outside at times the general course selection process that our regular brick and mortar schools would follow. The teacher was unable to be here tonight, and so Rick has graciously stepped in to not only talk about how these courses came about, but also to walk you through the UBDs. And Missy Kendall, who is our humanities coordinator at the secondary level, this is her first time in front of the board. And so I'm kicking it off, and she will be here to answer any questions in relation to how do these courses, if you have questions, how do these courses fit in and amongst all the other courses within the middle level. So with that intro, I'll kick it over to Rick to take it away.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here and present some additional options for your approving vote, hopefully, for our middle school. I think it's noteworthy as we talk about these 2 classes to explain why the teacher who's developing these courses isn't here. Tonight is the final dress rehearsal for the musical at South, which kicks off then later this week. And he's heavily involved in that. That's why he's not here. I think that's highly applicable to the 2 courses we're going to discuss. So our middle school students at eAchieve, they really enjoy the electives that we offer, but it is a limited number of electives, and they often find themselves in a position of wishing that there were more outlets for their creativity or their interests. That coupled with, we also have a number of students that are very heavily involved in theater, and that's the very reason why they come to eAchieve, both at the middle school and at the high school level, because they're involved in community theater.
Yes.
And sometimes that even takes, whether it's First Stage Theater or some of the other theater companies around the area, that may take up a good portion of their time at certain seasons of the year. And that's why they come to eAchieve, so that they have that kind of flexibility to practice and perform and and then either work ahead or catch up. So with those two things in mind, one of our music teachers, who also has a background in drama, came to me and said, you know, I think we could really do something really unique at eAchieve, and maybe introduce some performance type classes, which also piqued my interest because in the virtual world, we don't have, and I'm not just talking about eAchieve, I'm talking about in the world of virtual education, we don't have very many performance type classes, but I'm convinced that if anybody can do it, we can, because we've done some pretty amazing things already. So he kind of set the stage, no pun intended, and I latched onto that and I said, I think you've really got something here. I think our students would absolutely love some performance-based drama and theater classes. So why don't you put together a proposal and we'll bring it before the board, and hopefully they would approve it. So we have before you today two different middle school courses that we would like to offer next year. And the first one, Middle School Acting and Performance, is really, the names are quite descriptive. That's really focusing more about the actors on the stage.
Okay.
The other course is called, and I have to look at it off my phone because I somehow
Theater
missed
Tech.
printing it. Theater Tech and Design. Thanks. And that's really more the behind-the-scenes look at the world of theater. It's important to note that both of these courses are introductory survey courses. So as you look through the outlines for each of the two courses, you may recognize right away these can get to be pretty in-depth topics. We're not going to cover them in depth. I mean, you could really go a long ways. These are meant to be introductory, give them a taste of what it's like. Our goal is to come back again in the fall and seek proposal for two high school courses that follow in the footsteps here that may go more in depth into some of these areas. But I particularly like these courses because both of them don't just focus on drama or stagecraft or acting, but they go much farther and really lend themselves to some cross-curricular type of opportunities where they're learning a little bit about art, and they're learning a little bit about light, and they're learning about sound, but they're also doing it from those domains as well. They're in the acting class, they're approaching it also from a literature point of view, from understanding character, from understanding theme, and in the acting course, eventually they're going to have to perform. It'll be virtual, so they'll be recording themselves and then submitting that to the teacher for feedback and evaluation. But that involves speaking skills. It involves writing. And so I really appreciate the cross-curricular nature of both of these two classes. You have the outlines in front of you and even some sample lessons and the startings of assessments there. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you right now.
Mr. Bunker?
Thanks, Rick. It's interesting. I'm glad you started off by telling us about one of the needs for this. I mean, more electives is one thing, and then because you have a population where their interests may be almost contrary to what we try to do in education because they're doing something different, but this brings it together. That makes sense. But also at the same time, this is almost, oxymoron is moron too much, but to think about doing something virtually that is done in front of other people, normally in front of other people, seems a little bit conflicting to me. I'm not against it. I think it's a novel approach that needs to be, maybe, it's like a beta test to see if it's going to work or not. But there is that concern. I mean, even if you're going to do performance and tape it or record it and send it to the teachers, that's not the same as talking face-to-face with people from stage to audience. And so you can see why, in my mind, there's really, there's a question mark. Though, you have a need for something. You have a need for electives, and you have a need for this population. So I don't know if you need to alleviate me anymore, my concerns anymore, but I would say I know we're going to want some follow-up on this because it's novel, and it's a little bit contradictory to what you would think. I mean, I think people need to look at people face-to-face when they're doing things like this. But it'll be interesting to find out.
And to your point, we're in the process, a continuous process of instructional design, and Missy has on her docket for next year to work at the high school level with the drama and theater. So it'd be a good opportunity for us, if these are approved, to follow up, and then we can give an update when we provide updates with new courses and so forth, which falls in line with what Rick's earlier statement around if these are successful in terms of interest and moving forward, developing a high school course, because we'll want to make sure there's the alignment.
Would these students have an opportunity to participate in a performance?
That's not part of these two courses where we bring students together for a performance. That's not part of these two courses necessarily.
Okay.
There might be some logistical issues with that too.
Sure.
From students.
Sure, they're all over.
All over the state
right,
as well.
Right.
Mhm.
Are these students going to be interested in doing some performance?
I would think so, yes, because we have students that are already interested in taking advantage of what's available in their community.
Okay.
This would only enhance that interest that they've already expressed.
Well, we do have, we do have children in different performances around the area. But did they have an opportunity to learn these concepts, or do they just have the talent and do it?
Well, as far as I know, we don't offer anything like this in the
Right.
district currently.
Right. No, we don't.
So this would be a nice opportunity to get some formal training.
Sure.
For any student in the district or around the state who has a desire to get some training in those areas.
Do you think that a student that's already involved with, acting with the different organizations, would this improve their acting ability?
Absolutely, it would.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay.
Because it
That's good.
takes it down. It really takes it down to some very specific skills on the acting in the acting course that they're going to analyze, and the teacher's going to model, and they're going to have discussions about what could an actor or an actress do to improve their presentation, and then they're going to try it out and get feedback from the teacher. So absolutely it would.
This may, Ms. Ranachek, I'll come back.
Rick, I was wondering, okay, so if the students in middle school choose to take these courses, is it almost like Theater 1, and then as they go into high school, they could take the high school courses, or is it going to be more repetitive? Is it kind of an
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
So when the teacher came forward to propose these courses, I wanted to learn a little bit myself, because I had some of the same, reservations about like, how is this going to look in a virtual world? So I first got the drama teachers already at the high schools to look at these UBDs and to give their feedback and commentary, so that we could kind of see what would this look like as that trajectory moved forward into the high schools, considering we're going to write that curriculum this summer. And what was really interesting when I sat down with Michael for like an hour, we talked about the fact that if you look at especially this acting and performance one on the second page in stage 3,
a lot of what he's trying to accomplish is kind of that introductory to what would be happening in the drama course when they get to the high school level. So a lot of that, and that's why I thought was really interesting, is he gets to focus a lot more on just what does vocalization sound like, and how do you have to present yourself visually when you're in front of an audience, and a lot of those things that I think lend itself more to virtual learning than it would do the collaborative aspect of being in a drama course. And so he wrote, and I don't know, do they have the units?
Yep, well, I assume they were included?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And so then when he walked me through those units even more in depth and kind of talked about how this is that introductory level, especially when we're talking about looking at characterization and expressing reality and emotion and what they would be doing with that, it seemed very feasible, and it seemed very much of a nice start to encouraging a kid to continue into drama at the high school level. So I think both the courses lend to that world a little bit more.
Do you think that, there's a few young children that are involved in dramatic productions with different organizations. These kids have never had any experience with this kind of learning, have they? It's just natural talent that they have?
Or interest into it, what would this be like? And I think this is a way to, especially for a shy kid, or someone who might be a little bit more introverted, to come in and see if maybe this is something they like. It's very interesting to me to see how many kids wait till their junior or senior year to get involved in that because of that component. They were a little shy, or they didn't know that this was something they were interested in. And so this gives them a chance to dabble in it and then explore it more.
Do people that currently perform in movies that we see in theaters, do they all have this kind of a background?
The concepts that he's encouraging, like the curriculum pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is his he has a background in drama and theater, and so he did take this from his own learning of what would it be like if you were on the stage or performing, and some of the things that they would have to go through in order to be in front of an audience.
So are you saying then the people that make movies in Hollywood know or are aware of these things or have developed these skills?
I would say yes.
You would?
Depending on what they would be in, yeah. Especially when you look at like articulation and diction and things like that. I can't imagine that they wouldn't have to practice those things in order to do that.
Sure, interesting. Ms. Ranachek.
Just wanted to follow up on your question about would this help them in their theater or acting career. My kids do a little bit of acting, and I think that this would help them almost, they go in and they'll just do something and then they see it later, but they don't understand everything that's involved. They just go in, they're given a script or whatever. So as far as like these questions, what was it? It was about the lighting. How are the characteristics of theatrical lighting used to enhance the mood of a piece of theater? I don't think they think about all the lighting and all the sound that goes into it. Or what causes stage fright and how can we overcome it? Just because they don't have it doesn't mean that it's not going to come. And if it does, they'll remember, oh, this is what causes it. This is how to overcome it. It's just a huge learning curve. No matter where they are, they're going to be learning the whole piece, the production, the bigger picture, and probably appreciate it a lot more.
Sure. I wonder where the young kids, the elementary school age kids who are in productions learn how to be successful actors and actresses if they don't have this kind of, experience.
I would say that to best answer the question, there are a myriad of ways. We're knowing the questions that we ask, going back to our bright lights and how what we talk about personalized learning as a process. The process of personalized learning is asking some critical questions, one of which is kind of listening to our students and our student audience. And so I feel that this is, once again, one of those great opportunities where we have listened to students, and knowing that we have this gap of electives and then a population of students who have that Rick has listened to through his Achieve staff to come up with this concept. Will it look different? Absolutely.
Sure.
Could it provide opportunities for a student who is shy?
Absolutely.
I always self-admit I'm a chronic stage fright type person, but I went into education, and if this helps a student explore that opportunity, that may lead to more choices as they become older. I think it's a great opportunity. So that's why we brought it for you tonight.
Will these courses be available to our regular education students? Because I know they have to take one course, don't they, Rick, before they graduate? One course from
the
your
high school.
program at the
These
high
are-
school.
Sorry, Rick.
That's okay. So these two are middle school courses, and the
Okay.
plan is
Okay.
to, down the road,
Yes.
add two high school
High school,
courses.
okay.
Those could certainly count, the high school courses
Right.
could certainly count to satisfy
Okay.
the graduation
Graduation requirements.
requirement.
Okay,
For-
good.
For these two courses, at the middle school, if there was a middle school student at one of our face-to-face middle schools, and they were interested in taking this course, they certainly could do so on a part-time basis, where they
Okay.
would remain enrolled
Sure.
as a full-time student
Sure.
at their face-to-face school, and then
Yes.
they would just take this one or both classes.
Up over and above their school day.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sure. All right. Great. Mr. McCaffrey?
For the tech and design, what tools are they gonna be using for that? I mean, there's a lot that goes into designing a set, designing
Right.
a lighting feature.
That's a great question, and I asked Michael that very question just this afternoon, because I was wondering if somebody might ask that. And and he assured me they're not gonna, I mean, if they want to, they can break out the woodworking tools and things like that, but that is not the intended scope of the class. He says, when
I'm
I
not
taught
talking about
this.
building a set, but I'm talking about a lighting design.
Right.
There are specific computer programs that are used to even put a lighting design in a house. Are we thinking about using any of that stuff?
Not for these courses. That's
Okay.
a bit too technical for what these
Okay.
courses would be getting into.
So you're talking about sketching a design out? A
Right,
lighting design? And
right.
then-
It could be,
Okay.
it could be something as basic as
Because
that.
I was just noting, some of the stuff I think said to scale.
So part of the course would be to build a stage.
Okay.
And that would be kind of the capstone
Well, like the
piece for
one-
the course.
Right,
But
like
he
the
was
one-
thinking they would do it out of like foam board and
Okay.
cardboard.
So they would-
But they still would be working with proportions and scale.
Okay.
And that's kind of that cross-curricular piece
right.
again. But it wouldn't be getting out the
Right, well, they
hammers
wouldn't be
and
building a
saws.
set.
Right,
no, a
right.
set. So how is that evaluated then? For instance, like, under Unit 3, it says project set designer to scale drawing of set design. How do you evaluate that? I mean, that would have to be in somebody's hand to actually know if it's to scale. And are they, I mean, is it gonna have to be because to scale actually means something, you know, in the theatrical industry. It's, you know, if you're doing an 1/8 inch scale, or, you know, it all depends.
Certainly.
So I was just wondering how that's evaluated.
Right. So certainly they may have blueprints
Right.
or sketches that they're working from. Those could be scanned and
Okay.
sent to the teacher.
Okay.
In terms of the actual model itself that they build, they could take pictures of it.
Okay.
It would be a little bit more difficult to measure, did you get this scale exactly
yeah,
right?
right.
But if you look at the blueprint and the blueprint is right, and you look at the photo and
Right.
and it's,
Okay.
that's how they would actually evaluate the work.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. Always improving the quality of what you offer. I like that, Mr. Nishan. I really like that.
So we've-
Lots of opportunities for kids
Ready for
who
the vote?
need to learn or want to learn in a different setting, not the brick and mortar school. So, well, great. Mr.
This is an
Baumgart.
action item, so I'm going to move for approval of the acting and performance in theater and design courses.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion, comments? Okay, all those in favor of approving the new Achieve Middle School courses, acting and performance, theater and design, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh.
Thank
And
you.
we'll return you to your regular scheduled math programming.
They're overnight trips.
Yeah.
Oh, we got overnight trips first.
Okay, there's only one.
Two, I think.
There's two,
Yeah, there's two.
All right, we have one more action item before we get back to the math fun, and that is asking for your approval of the 2 overnight field trips in your packet. I believe one was in your packet on Friday. That was the South High School retreat to Camp Wincom Mason
Right.
with the orchestra and choir. We did put an additional trip for your review this evening, and that's the senior band trip, also from South High School to Chicago. Both are self-explanatory, and Stacy assures me that everything is taken care of per your purview, so
Okay,
asking for approval this evening.
okay. Any questions from board members?
Approval of the 2 field trips.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2 overnight field trips, the one for South High School, the band overnight trip, and the other one for South High School for the orchestra and choir trip to Camp Mason. Okay, all those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, passed, great.
All right, our next information item this evening,
She's back.
yes, AVMR and math recovery.
Hi.
Rose will let you introduce the teachers. Thank you so much for being here so late on a school night.
Rose, will you introduce us to your staff?
What?
You're off the,
Yeah,
off
I'm
the
there.
air.
All right, why don't you guys introduce yourself and I'll get this off.
Fine when
My
Steve
name
was
is
sitting
Katie
in a.
Kira, and I'm a math interventionist at Hawthorne. My name is Rachel Bergen, and I teach math at Horning Middle School.
And my name is Debbie Berg, and I teach first grade at Hillcrest Elementary School.
Oh, are you lucky? You are so lucky.
Yes, I am.
You know why I'm saying that, don't you?
Yep.
Yes. Great. Welcome. Great to have you. Are you gonna watch something
I was
first?
gonna say, I'm trying to get the presentation. It's asking for a code though.
Oh, okay.
Top one, okay, there we go.
Jody.
Oh, great.
There we go.
Okay, so tonight I'm back here to talk about math recovery and Advantage Math Recovery. Just to give you some background on it, in the spring of 2014, 5 teachers, including myself, attended Advantage Math Recovery Training Course 1 in Menominee Falls. Advantage Math Recovery was one thing that we talked about, is this something that we wanted to bring forth to our district? So the 5 teachers I took were representing various areas, whether it was special education, our dual language population, primary teachers, as well as intermediate teachers, as well as effectiveness coaches. At that point, we decided this was a really interesting program. It really helps to build number sense for our students. It really helps to build that understanding that we were talking about earlier tonight. And so the fall of 2014, I started math recovery intervention specialist training because you needed that training so that I could become a trainer of our teachers within the district. So at that point, we started training some of our teachers with an outside trainer. I worked with a one-on-one with a student, and then finally the spring of 2015, we could train some of our teachers at Lowell and Hadfield just to gradually get started. The summer of 2015 then, I could do my champion training, and so I could become a trainer of our teachers here within the district. So what can I train? So Advantage Math Recovery has 3 different courses. AVMR Course 1 right here is about teaching number in the classroom for students from 4 to 7 years old. It is a 3.5-day training that we do with our teachers. During that time, our teachers really get in-depth knowledge about learning about the pillars of number sense, such as number words and numerals, adding and subtracting, and structuring. These are the pieces that really help kids to understand number. When I was a classroom teacher, I would oftentimes, as a sixth grade teacher, say, kids just didn't get it. They didn't get number sense. And I really wasn't sure what number sense meant at that point. Now I can specifically say, with this training, with the knowledge that our teachers are getting, they're being able to pinpoint what exactly our students need to be able to move forward. After Advantage Math Course 1, there is a Course 2. This one is, again, 3.5 days of training, but they get to learn now about place value and multiplication and division for our teachers. Again, it's a training where we look at what are some of the assessments that we can do for students. With those assessments, I can pinpoint what level or a student is at, and then know exactly what are the activities or the instructional engaging activities I can give students to do that's going to move them forward in their thinking and to be able to get to that fact fluency that we know is so important. One thing that I really like about Advantage Math is that they're always continuing to grow. And so the next course that's coming out in the fall of 2017 is a focus on fractions. As teachers move into the upper elementary and middle school, a lot of times they'll say, okay, great, we got kids understanding addition, subtraction. We might even have them understanding multiplication, division. But those fractions, that's a difficult concept. And so this course, again, will be coming. Right now, I've completed the course, and then this summer I'll be getting the champions training for that to become a trainer, where we can really dig in to see what is that understanding of fractions, and then again, what are activities to move that learning forward. So what does Advantage Math Recovery do for our students, or why should we do it? Number one, it provides teachers with an understanding of numeracy development. It can really change the universal level of instruction. Every single teacher that I have trained goes back and talks about how they look at their students differently. They start to, when they're having these conversations in math, they start to think about, oh, I understand where this student is coming from. I know next steps. It also allows for that informed small guided group instruction that you heard earlier tonight about being one of our high leverage practices. Through taking AVMR, teachers know exactly what to do for those students that might be struggling, that may not be on track to learn those addition and subtraction facts or the multiplication and division, and they can just use the resources given to determine lessons that would be appropriate for those students in those small groups. And finally, Advantage Math Recovery can be used for intervention. So it could be used at that universal level, but it also could be used in small group intervention. Along with Advantage Math Recovery, there is what's called Math Recovery. Math Recovery officially came first. Math Recovery was a one-on-one intervention with students. It was like reading recovery. It was for that intensive intervention for students. When people are trained in Math Recovery, it's a full year of learning and support. There's 10 days of instruction, so you can already see how it's amped up from AVMR instruction. We have video nights. There's coaching associated with it. Right now, we have 2 teachers who are being trained in Math Recovery that are doing one-on-one intervention in our district, where they can work with students who may be struggling a little bit more. And through the Math Recovery, you can really see students move forward quickly as we can really tailor the instruction for that one student.
Rose, I visited a school this year, and I think they had 3 or 4 interventionists, and I know that math was one of the areas. So would they be doing this kind of thing with the students?
So the reason I have the 3 people in front of you tonight, they're going to talk and share about what they're doing with Advantage Math Recovery in the classroom. Katie is an interventionist specifically at the elementary level.
Great.
So some of our interventionists are trained in Advantage Math Recovery, not all of them at this point. We're hopefully at some point we'll get there. We're just not there yet.
Okay.
So with Math Recovery, why would we do Math Recovery versus Advantage Math Recovery? Math Recovery is about that one-on-one. It's that early intervention for students who are struggling to learn. And so we can quickly get them up to speed and they can go back into the classroom. So the first year I was doing Math Recovery training with as part of the training, you have to work one-on-one with students. You have to get 100 hours in. So I worked with 4 students one-on-one that first year. And I can say that, you know, when they go back into the classroom, they're ready to join their peers and to be part of that conversation and to follow along with their peers. So far, along this path, teachers we have trained so far in 2014 and 15, that was that first year. So we had somebody, an outside trainer, come in for the first part, and then the summer I did some coursework. So you can see that we have 58 teachers that were trained in course 1, 4 in course 2, because that was our original 5 people. Only 4 people went for course 2 because one of them was a kindergarten teacher, and course 2 doesn't necessarily apply to kindergarten teachers. So the 4 of us went through AVMR course 2, and then I went through math recovery. Last year, you can see that we trained 76 teachers in AVMR course 1, 41 in course 2. I could not do any training in math recovery because I hadn't gone through my official training to be a trainer yet. That was last summer. And so finally this school year, up to April of this year, there will be 66 trained in AVMR course 1, 40 in AVMR course 2, and then the 2, like I said, that are now math recovery trained. So when you look at what teachers are saying about this is kind of small there, but the feedback that we get is phenomenal, and you can read some of it about the course making people want to learn, the desire to learn, that it was stuff that they could, information that they could use immediately in their classroom. They were given resources that would help them to make a difference. You can see that they have the materials, the visuals, the information provided is exactly what they needed to work with their students. And so you can read through some of these testimonials that teachers have said, and I've put up there whether it was from they had taken an AVMR 1 course or an AVMR 2 course or the math recovery course. So I feel like if you talked to teachers who have taken the courses, they would say how valuable it is. And when we look at wanting to develop math facts, or we're looking at wanting to develop that number sense, this really provides teachers with that background that I didn't get, and many, I don't know, of very few teachers get from their college preparatory work. It's really stuff that we have learned, and that it's that growing body of knowledge. So that's a little bit of background, but I thought it was more powerful, instead of me talking all night long, to have some of our teachers share some of their different pieces. So I had them introduce themselves, but I'm going to ask each of them. I selected them for various reasons. Debbie is at that first grade level, so those primary classrooms. Rachel is at our middle school, so how does it apply to middle school teachers in learning? And then Katie, like I said, is the interventionist. So I'm going to stop talking now and let them share a little bit about their experience with it, or what they see as the impact that it's had on their instruction and their learning.
Well, as a first grade teacher, the AVMR activities really are tailored to first grade perfectly. It's really universal for my kids. All my kids need this. My kids that struggle in math need it. My gifted kids need it. It's just background we all need as we're learning to play with numbers. And I've always struggled in math of like specifically identifying what are the weaknesses, why aren't they understanding this, and you know, what's going wrong, where are the holes coming from. And probably like 20 years ago I took ERE in reading, and that helped me as a reading teacher know where their holes were in reading. But I just never had that background in math as a math teacher. And this is my 31st year. And so last year I was trained in AVMR 1 and 2, and I was like, finally, here's a tool to help me identify where the weaknesses are for my kids and what can I do to help them reach their goals. And it's just been really fabulous for me as a teacher, and helping me make my groups and identify where they are in structuring, and then I have groups around structuring, and then I also did assessing and addition and subtraction, and then made my groups around where they fell in their levels in that assessment, and then I also have groups in number, words, and numerals, and then was able to make my groups around where they fell in that assessment too. So my guided groups now are very specific to their needs, and they're all being challenged at their levels. And it's just a really, really exciting time in math. And I would go door to door and sell this. And I'm trying to sell it at my school, and I know it's lots of teachers are trying to get into the class, and it's very highly valued by the teachers. And I think we're going to see a lot of good results.
Do you feel that your students, when they leave your class and have had this experience, are better than the students in your school that haven't had that experience?
Yeah.
Yes, oh, wow.
But this is my first year trying it full
Yes, yes,
time.
uh-huh.
But their thinking is really fabulous.
Wow.
Really, they're just.
So we got to train all our teachers. We got to get everybody.
Absolutely, I think so.
Wonderful.
And the sooner the better.
And it's too bad, that you don't come from your colleges and universities with this course or with these skills. No.
No, I know. And we didn't in reading either, really.
No.
We weren't prepared as we should have been, I think.
Sure, I agree with you. I agree. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I teach at Horning. The first 5 years I taught here in Waukesha, I taught 8th grade math. And then I started to teach a little bit of math intervention at the 8th grade level at Horning. This year I'm teaching all math intervention courses at Horning Middle School. So my passion really lies there. I'm going to school at UW-Oshkosh for my master's degree currently in math intervention, and I've been trained in AVMR Course 1 and Course 2 through Rose. The first time I took the course, the one thing I really noticed is just how aligned it was to all of the research I have been reading, all of the progressions and everything that I've been reading about from my master's program. It's fluidly aligned. It matches up perfectly with how kids naturally learn math and how they naturally kind of work through the math, as opposed to how we might have presented it to them. I come from a secondary background, so I'm trained 6-12, so I'm just trained in math, so I have a ton of math background, but I really thought this was like the best 8-day educational experience as to the elementary background. Where are our kids coming from in elementary school? And I feel like that was such an important piece for me to be able to work with them in math intervention, because a lot of what I'm doing is based off of the elementary level to help them catch up and get those skills. The last thing I wanted to talk about for AVMR is how helpful it has been for seeing the little pieces that are missing. For instance, if we talk about the problem 48 plus 6, seems pretty simple to us. A lot of my math intervention kids, or a lot of kids at middle school, however, will still count it on their fingers. 49, 50, 51. And that gets exasperating. And then if they do the standard algorithm where it's lined up 48 plus 6 underneath, they get 8 plus 6, and there come the fingers again. 9, 10, 11. So that's not any shorter for them. So really what I think has helped me with AVMR the most is breaking down all of those steps that I didn't necessarily think of that are required in a faster way to solve 48 plus 6. Well, in order for a kid to know how to solve 48 plus 6, they have to know that they can break 6 apart into 2 and 4. And why that is helpful is because 48 plus 2, that's simple, that's 50. And then 50 plus 4 is 54. But without knowing those 3 separate components, they're not able to kind of fluidly think through what was simple mental math to me, but that's because I was always a strong math learner. So kind of the AVMR components have really broken it down into, if a student is still counting on their fingers to solve this type of problem, here's an activity or a strategy you can do with them next. And the ultimate goal is to have them be more fluent in all of their math facts, so that they can think through them and which strategy might be most efficient. The most efficient strategy for 48 plus 6 isn't to count on their fingers. It might not also be to line them up and add them, because that's a pretty simple task for you to do kind of in your head. But that's not something that's necessarily obvious to all of our students, especially the struggling ones.
Math recovery all day?
I don't teach math recovery. I'm not trained in math recovery. I do AVMR.
Okay.
I use it as probably my primary tool in my math intervention. I do teach math intervention all day. Mm-hmm.
All day, in middle school?
In middle school.
Okay.
Yep.
And Katie?
Well, I felt very fortunate to be able to take both class 1 and class 2. Because I am an interventionist, and as Rose said, not all of the interventionists have been trained. So my aha moments came a lot later than yours, actually. I mean, I found myself really realizing that some of the things, some of the practices that I'd been using in teaching math and in math intervention previously maybe were counterproductive, like rushing kids into using the standard algorithm too quickly without really understanding what was supposed to be happening background-wise. So it was a positive experience. It's helped me grow as a teacher, and I think it's helped my students too. So maybe I should just say what math intervention looks like at Hawthorne, because I don't think it's the same at every school. But so we are finishing the second cycle of intervention this week, and next week, Mr. Wynn and the effectiveness coaches and Wendy Hamilton, who is the Title I coordinator, the classroom teachers, and the interventionists will get together and make a decision about progress that's been made by students. We'll look at AVMR data, and it's nice to have another point from the assessments that the kids are given. There's other data like map data that we might look at too, but we will then decide who will be in intervention. Right now, I have 17 students, and some of them I see individually and some in small groups.
So you're in elementary?
K-5.
K-5, okay.
Yeah.
At one school?
Hawthorne.
Okay, wow.
Right. And so what the advantage of AVMR is that the teacher may give a broad assessment and then say that a certain student may be having trouble with forward number word sequence, then I can do more assessment and then target specifically what the problem is. And it is very, very useful that way. There's a picture up there on the top right. There's a little guy who is playing a treasure hunt game, and he is learning how to sequence numbers. He's also learning how to say them because he was having trouble with his number identification. And hopefully tomorrow he'll count to 30. That's the plan. So, but I feel very positive about it, and the more teachers that are trained in this, I think the better.
Intervention is in addition to what kids are getting in the classroom.
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah. So it's completely in addition to, yes. They're getting the regular universal instruction from their
Like
teacher.
an intervention block or something.
Yeah, that's always a challenge to
Sure.
when the kids are going to be out of the regular classroom, but
Right, but they're in for the universal instruction that all their other peers are getting.
that's right.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
When they come to you, is it one-on-one? Or not?
I see two students one-on-one, and then the rest of them are in small groups of
Okay, all
2,
grade
3, or
levels?
4.
All grade levels?
Right,
Okay.
K through 5, yeah.
Okay.
So when you look at Advantage Math Recovery and Math Recovery, Advantage Math Recovery is for small group instruction. It can be used one-on-one, but if you really want that true intensive intervention, that's where we'd go with Math Recovery, because you have more depth of knowledge and expertise in teaching math because of the intense training that you go through.
But every student doesn't have the opportunity to work with people like yourself to gain these skills,
So,
right?
you know, we can't train, and that's why Advantage Math came to be, was because Math Recovery is fabulous, but we don't work one-on-one with students. And so they took the principles of Math Recovery and they pared it down as to what are those things that we could do with the knowledge we have of Math Recovery. How could it be used at a whole class level or a small group level? And so that's where Advantage Math came from. So all of the same principles that are true to Math Recovery are just changed a little bit as far as the activities so that it works that way. I think one of the benefits that all of these teachers would agree with is that it really puts us on that common language that you heard us talking about for K-12.
Right.
It also helps for the interventionist as well as the classroom teacher to be on that same conversation, so that teachers know if I say this kiddo is at a level 2 on forward number word sequence, we all know what that means, and we all know that directionality we're going to be working towards to move this student forward. So those are just some of the pieces that I think are really strong with this model. And so right now, if there's any questions, we'd be happy to take
Well,
some
I'd
more
like to know if
questions.
every building has a math recovery teacher.
At this point, no, there's only 2 math recovery teachers. That's at 3rd level. We just started this year, there are 2. So there's one at Banting and one at Higher. There are AVMR trained teachers at every single building.
Okay.
Whether it's a classroom, there are many classroom teachers. It's not everybody yet. As people said, I have a waiting list for the course because I can only do 15 teachers at a time.
Okay.
And so I always have a waiting list for my course 1. And the other day I received an email where someone said, I feel like the bus is leaving and I'm not on it. When can I get on the bus? So there is that demand for it. It's just limited by the number of days that are in a month at this point.
Manager?
Rose, how did you hear about this?
How did I hear about this? There was it was probably even before that, 2014, there was an introductory, Menominee Falls had been doing math recovery and AVMR training, and they just did an information session about it. And so it was actually Larilyn Carpenter and myself that went way back at that point, found it to be interesting, then started doing more research. There are a lot of districts that are actually, Green Bay is heavily into training all of their coaches in math recovery or Advantage Math. Oshkosh is, Menominee Falls, Muskego, Oconomowoc. So there are a lot of districts in the area. One of the things that's true is when I'm doing trainings, I can accept a percentage of out-of-district participants.
Okay.
And so I've had people from Pewaukee, I've had people from St. Francis, I believe. So it's really catching on because once you start learning some of that background, it's like, oh, this just connects all of those dots that we were asking for, wanting to know.
But you're allowing our teachers to have a seat on the bus before you're teaching other teachers in other districts, aren't you?
Yes. So again, I can only take 15 because it's during the school day. So that means we have substitutes that are filling in. And so that's why we're limited to that. So I'm always filled with our teachers, absolutely. And so then I cap it at 20. So I will take 5 outside people.
But they have to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
No problem.
Yes, absolutely.
And then this is, I guess, maybe for all of you. So we're trying to help those kiddos that are kind of falling behind, but then some of these examples, like you've said, like the 48 plus 6, I mean, we have so many kids that are middle of the road that could get much faster if they knew this, but we might not be catching them. So it would be so beneficial if, and I know you can only teach or train 15 at a time, but I mean, for all those kids that are just not being caught, they're just kind of scooting along. They could just excel so much if they just knew some of these strategies.
Catching on at the middle school level too. Like in addition to my day, I do a lot of work with training the other teachers around what I've been learning through Rose or through my master's degree. So I'm teaching a collegial study. In the evenings, I do PD in the school day to help kind of the other teachers talk about some of these same topics and how could they maybe condense what I'm doing to 5-10 minutes a day or a week so that they're talking about the different strategies and introducing them to a more universal level. And the teachers are very open to it anytime we've kind of had the training.
I would say in addition, so if teachers go through the training, it helps for struggling learners, but it really helps all students because I may have, like Debbie has learned about place value and multiplication and division. That's not part of her curriculum multiplication division's not part of her curriculum as a first grade teacher. However, if she has students who are ready for it, she now has that background knowledge, and she's able to, again, in that small guided group, move those students forward or to move them forward with their place value. So while we talk about it as far as an intervention, I really would say it is back to that universal, because if I know where students are at, I can move them forward from that point, and this is going to provide that background.
Wow.
I have a question.
Yes.
What
Mr.
what
McCaffrey.
types of skills are we actually teaching in this? For instance, the skill of breaking down the smaller number into smaller parts. I mean, that's not a new concept. I was taught that concept in the 70s. So, I mean, are these concepts that we're teaching or skills that we're teaching that we used to teach that have fallen out of favor and now we're...
It's moved down. Like first graders do this now.
Right.
So I think it's moved down.
Well,
the
yeah,
grade
but I
levels
mean,
to do
obviously
this.
these skills weren't taught and they're in 8th grade now.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
But, and then, you know, that, I mean, when I say that, you know, I was taught these in the 70s, I mean, I was in elementary school in the 70s. And that's exactly how I would have figured out that problem on the fly. So, I mean, what other skills are we, I mean,
other strategies?
yeah, what other strategies?
That particular strategy in first grade we call bridging to 10 or bridging to a friendly number. So
Okay.
we would use that like for 95 plus 95, they might say 200 and then take away
Right,
two
yep, that's
fives.
another good one, yep.
And that's like first grade level. The other strategy is breaking numbers up into two parts to make it easier to add. And we use the 5 and the 10 as target numbers. So sometimes my kids have to add like 5 plus 7, and they might not know that, but they know 7 has a 5 in it.
Right.
So they take the 2 5s and put the 5s together, and then add 2 more.
Add the 2, right.
Yeah.
So when you say we're teaching that, is it that program is teaching that, or we as a district are teaching that in the first grade?
I think it's both. I
Okay.
think that we are heavy into strategies now for kids.
Right.
So that when they get to problems they can't solve right away, they can go to one of their strategies and think, well, maybe this strategy, I think this strategy might work for this problem.
Right.
So, but I think that the district has moved to using strategies to help, teaching strategies to kids to help them solve problems that they don't know immediately.
So this program gives them strategies.
Yes.
Great.
That they're getting outside of the program as well?
Absolutely.
You're just reinforcing the
Absolutely.
strategies that
And-
have been coming
And there's,
up? Okay.
on the BB9, and for parents, there's a help site. And
Great.
our strategies for every grade level are on the parent
Great.
help site. It's like a trifold that you can send home to the parents, and I sent that home as well as the link to the website. So the strategies are out there for the parents
Oh, okay.
to see too, because they might not understand
No.
what their kids are doing.
Right.
So I think these strategy cards at the various grade levels help the parents understand how their kids are approaching math now.
A lot different, Katie, than what we did at Bethesda.
Yes, a lot different,
Katie and I
a
used
lot
to.
better.
Katie and I used to teach together, didn't we?
Barb, I have one question.
Yes.
Rose, it sounds like one of your biggest roadblocks is training teachers. Are there any plans to get other trainers to train teachers?
Yes. Yeah, I'm looking at Jody. Yes, the plan is underway.
Lots of plans.
So it's out there.
That obvious.
It,
Yeah. 'Cause it
there's
sounds
a process like, again, it's not like tomorrow I can say I can train someone and they can train. They have to go through a year of math recovery where you have to do it as a practitioner. And then there's what's called champions training, which is a week-long training in Minnesota that you have to go through.
Oh.
So it's not, while we can say, yes, we're looking at that, it's a year out because teachers need to go through that process to become a trainer to have that background knowledge.
Can those trainers come here, or do we have to go to them?
As far as the champion training, if we had a lot of people being trained, they would come here, but usually it's more cost effective to
Sure.
send somebody there because we don't have those numbers.
Sure. And is this a program common across the country?
Yes, it's nationwide. It's also, it actually started in Australia. One of the founders, Dr. Bob Wright, is out of Australia. They just had a Scotland, New England math recovery conference there. So it's really worldwide. In the United States, I'm trying to remember how many states it's in, but it's in a variety of states. So when I've gone through my training, I've trained with people from Texas, I've trained with people from Michigan, from out east, from several states. And so there's a support group that I always call it my support group, but we get together and we have these conversations. And so it pulls from people across the United States. So it's widespread.
Wow, thank you. Great way for our students to learn, and, thank you for learning how to do this, because the ultimate goal is to help students learn math better, right?
Barbara, I just had one more question.
Yes.
Rose, is it a kit that you purchase then? Once, do teachers, they're trained and then they receive a kit to implement this, or is it?
They do get a bag of goodies for each of the courses, so it is a kit, but in the same sense, it's not a program that you turn page 1 and this is what we do on page 2. It's really about assessments, so you can pinpoint what students need, and then it's a book of activities, and then the materials that you might need for those activities
Awesome.
to determine how to move them forward.
Great, thank you.
That's great. That's great. Wow. Any other comments, questions? Well, thank you for your efforts in helping our kids do the best they can do. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, one
All
more
right.
item.
Not taking away anything from the other presenters, but we have saved the best for last.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's,
So thank
Big
you.
shoes to fill.
We have a wonderful student achievement update this evening from Butler Middle School, so.
welcome, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. What I brought with us today, I have our school improvement team co-chairs. So Tracy Dominiak on the left here, and Michelle Malinan. And for those that don't know me, I'm Jason Sadowski. I'm the principal at Butler. So a couple weeks ago, Tracy and Michelle actually presented this presentation to the staff, and actually in a video format, added some humor to this. Because of this format here, the video would have been great, but it was about 17 minutes long, and we try to condense it down. So we're going to give you the non-comical version of the presentation. It really is based off of our theory of action, and I'm just going to read the main component of our theory of action. If the Butler community collaborates to create culturally responsive, high levels of instruction, using data and reflection to drive decisions and the engagement of all learners, then students will communicate their knowledge in a variety of ways and actively engage in high levels of questioning and collaboration to demonstrate increased knowledge of achievement. In the middle there are the kind of like the bullet points that we hit throughout the course of the year. Today we're just going to talk about 2 of them because we're going to share some data that we've uncovered throughout the course of the year.
So we administered a student belief and perception survey in October, and there were a few things we found that we were really proud of. One is that 92% of the students feel that the teachers believe that they can learn, and we thought that was very powerful. Also, 91% of the students feel respected by staff. 93% of the students feel accepted and appreciated at Butler. And we are going to be doing the same survey again in May just to make sure we're still heading in the right direction. But as we think about our theory of action and the second component, some of the things that we did realize we needed to add was a focus on building a culture of acceptance with an educational-based culture. And so there's 3 elements that we decided we would focus on. One is understanding and celebrating our diversity. One is building strong relationships. And the last is modeling essential social skills in order to be successful citizens. To do this, We're working with staff to increase our understanding of our diverse population. We're doing that through some cultural activities. We have a few collegial book studies that we're running. We also have an increased emphasis on student ownership of clubs, such as our diversity club. We have new clubs also. We have a new club, the Sign Language Club, because it was a response to the increased population of our deaf and hard of hearing. And their friends wanted to be able to communicate with them. And so we gathered together the resources we needed. And we're excited because this really shows student initiative and ownership. We've placed an emphasis on building our community inside and outside of the school more this year than any other. And this has included several different community building projects. We've had Spirit Days, Bully Prevention, Butler United with monthly themes. But we're really excited about our outreach that we've been doing. We've been working with the food pantry. We've even been writing letters to the residents of Linden Grove, which is a nursing care facility. Additionally, one of the things that we've noticed with our focus on modeling expectations is that our referrals are dropping about 30% over the last 2 years. And we're seeing that as our staff begin to understand the background of our population, that they're using strategies to redirect students when they're beginning to escalate. We're also focusing on teaching teachers to reteach and model behaviors, and then using a solid positive system of praise and incentive. And we're seeing some results from that. And finally, our out-of-school suspension rate has also dropped. And obviously, the goal is to keep kids in school. And when we're spending more time reteaching, then we're spending less time suspending. And so we're seeing some positive results from that. Tracy?
So one of our other components of our theory of action, we were working with our staff to define, understand, and implement some best practice strategies. So we've taken quite a few steps this year with the teachers in our building. One of the first steps that we've taken was developing what we call a lit squad. And so that's a group of teachers that are working to research and teach strategies to the other teachers in the building. We've completed our first cycle of that this year, and we just started our second cycle, where the teachers can pick a strategy that they feel would work best with their classroom, learn it, and then implement it within their classroom. We've developed a Tier 2 reading intervention program. This reading intervention program focuses on the comprehension focus groups, and this model aligns directly to the work that the teachers are doing within the classroom as far as the CLM model goes. We've also developed a Tier 3 reading intervention program, and this works specifically with Sonday. And the Sonday program works to fill in any gaps as far as phonics goes. We have a Tier 2 and 3 math intervention as well, and that is actually the AVMR that we had just heard so much wonderful information about. So we've included both a Tier 2 and 3 program focusing on that. We have some classroom walkthroughs. This allows our academic team to provide feedback to the teachers within the building and give them some coaching sessions. And in addition to that, we also have our ESAIL model. And so that includes feedback from our academic team, but also from fellow teachers as well. So it's getting teachers within our classrooms, kind of looking and seeing what we're doing and providing feedback for each other. So this is some of our classroom walkthrough data. So this data is looking specifically at the DOK model, and DOK is the depth of knowledge. And this was developed specifically to look at different cognitive expectations and different levels and how the students learn. So there are 4 different levels. The first level is recall. The second level is skills and concepts. This data is focusing specifically on levels 3 and 4, which is strategic thinking and extended thinking. So within this classroom walkthrough, we were looking at both oracy and writing that the students are doing. Our oracy has actually gone up to 38%, and this is looking specifically at whole group discussions, small group discussions, as well as partner discussions. Some examples of these levels would be our literature discussion groups. We have Socratic seminars. The kids are doing presenting. They do think, pair, shares. just getting the kids talking and conversing with each other. We also have our writing data that has also gone up this year as well to 32%. This is both individual writing and writing within partners. Some examples of this would be open-ended responses, critiques, having the kids confer and critique with each other, doing some designing and investigations as well. So those would just be some examples of those levels.
Oracy, you're using one of those academic terms.
Oracy is speaking, so how the kids
Thank
can speak with each other, present information, conversations. Yeah.
And kind of to build on the previous presenters with the AVMR, and this is extending kind of what Tracy said to, this is the data piece regarding our Tier 2 interventions. So one of the pieces that we've been able to dig down deep into are students that need some additional supports. Right now, we have 34 students that are in intervention, whether it's reading or math. And these are students that need that extra boost outside of the regular ed class. Right now, we've identified 22 out of the 34 have been in intervention for 3 or more years. We have documentation that they've been in intervention for 3 or more years. The other sad part of this right now is we have 10 students out of those, out of that 34 that have been in intervention every single year, which to me is just, from our group, is disheartening that we have to provide this support every year. So our real goal for this, and we've kind of started identifying this a little bit last year, but we've really dug into the data this year to identify it. And our goal is to really stop that. For a student to have intervention every single year is not right.
Find something for me. When you say every single year at Butler or since K?
Since they've been in Waukesha.
Okay, I see what you're saying then.
So it would include, but depending on what grade level they are at. So that was our clear focus this year, and we made a strong attempt to. We found that we need to number one, train our teachers real well. So our focus has been training our teachers. It's been kind of on the job type training, but that has been our key focus this year. And as you see the data, it's really been it's paid off. So right now we've been able to dismiss 16 out of the 34 students, so 47%. And this is as of semester. So in half a year we've been able to dismiss. They met the goal. The even better part that I'd like that you see there below there is 41% of those students that were 3 or more years. So out of those 22. We're putting a stop to 41% of them. So 9 of those students, we believe we put a stop to the continuation of them being in intervention. And this is only partway through. And our goal now is to obviously continue this with more, we have more students waiting to get in. We just don't have enough staff to provide these interventions for. But we call it the stopgap. We don't want to continue that. So this is a huge celebration for us, and I would say for our district as well. But this is something we're going to continue delving deep into.
Thank you, Barb. When you say so is it because the intervention is not working? That's why they're in? Okay.
There's a slew of reasons. I will say one of the reasons mistakes that we made at Butler in the past was we give a student intervention for a quarter and then say, well, you know what, they have it for a quarter, that we really want them to get into electives, so then we're not going to continue with their intervention to get, to make sure they stop it. This year we decided, we're doing a disservice for the student. We're going to give them the intervention until they prove that they can't get it, and then they'll go into the elective.
Okay, so when you say that you've dismissed them,
They graduated out.
They met the goal.
Last year, because this year they
this
don't.
year.
Okay, so in the for first semester, you assessed them, you made sure that they were up to where everybody else is supposed to be, and then you said you don't need this anymore.
Correct.
Just by assessing them, you found that.
Yeah, we progress monitored both in the so it's progress monitoring tools in the classroom, in the intervention itself, as well as progress monitoring in the regular classroom. So Tracy, do you want to talk?
Yeah, so I teach one of the reading interventions, and so we do a weekly progress monitoring in both fluency and comprehension. So we started out the year doing a progress monitoring, and the way that works is we give them a couple of assessments to basically kind of average out, making sure it wasn't just a particular assessment that they struggled in. And so we get a foundation of where they're at. And that's what we use to determine what skills we need to work on within the intervention. And then we continue to progress monitor them weekly to see where they're at. We've had meetings with our school psych as well as one of our coaches within the building. We have those quarterly to assess where the students are at and determine if there's a further need for them within this intervention, or if they are ready to move on to another class such as an elective, because we know that they would be successful in the classroom without these interventions. So within that assessment, then we were able to either at quarter or semester determine which students were able to exit out of the program, and that's where we got the data at semester of how many kids were dismissed or graduated out, if you will.
So those kids that were dismissed have become more independent learners?
Correct.
And have gained skills to be independent?
Yep, so they gained either the skills or strategies to make them successful, kind of depending on the needs of the students. Because depending if they were in a tier 2 or 3 intervention, it might be more skills versus strategy based.
But if you didn't do what you're doing, which, it's awesome, these kids would continue to depend on intervention all the time. And you want to stop that. You want them to be independent learners.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And that's what we're finding. That's what Jason was mentioning of we're seeing these kids in these interventions year after year.
Sure.
And so we wanted to give them that independence as opposed to becoming dependent on a program such as that.
And they feel so much better about themselves.
Yeah.
And then that adds to their success. Wow, this is wonderful. Ms. Ranachek.
Thank you. Was this the first year that you switched your math intervention to the course that we just had a talk on?
Yes.
Do you think that had a lot to do with the math side of it?
I think the biggest piece with the math, right now it's too early because a lot of our teachers have had the AVMR training this year, so they're still kind of learning it. So I would be premature to say it's only because of AVMR. The teachers' understanding of the components have been a whole lot stronger, so I would say it's been beneficial, but to prove right now would be, like I said, premature. But the key focus is that we have hand-selected staff, and the idea is we're keeping them in longer. The math piece, they're digging down deeper into what the actual problem is, not just giving them surface-level materials. In our literacy, I think Tracy mentioned a lot of components that they're doing. The one piece I just want to add to that too is Tracy, majority of our teachers will have the same students in intervention that they have in their regular ed class. And that has been huge. Because then what they can build off of, in both classes, they can build off each other. Where in the past, we've had a separate person doing the intervention versus in the classroom. And yes, they communicate, but you still don't have that firsthand knowledge of what's going on. So there's many different components of it. Our main focus this year was to train the teachers, and I think it's really shown that it's paid off, and not just making it another teacher's prop or anything like that. So the goal would be for the future is these same teachers are providing these interventions, so we have strong trained teachers to issue that.
I just have to tell you, Jason, how impressed I am that you are so devoted to school culture. Because without a positive school culture among teachers, you and the teachers, students, a custodian, the lunch people, you don't have a real successful organization. And I really applaud you for doing this because I think you understand that if you have that culture, your kids are going to do a lot better. And I like the fact that the kids that have been constantly receiving intervention, it's got to stop because they got to get out in the world someday. They have to stand on their own 2 feet. And so you're starting this also before high school. It's excellent. I'm just so impressed. Really, I am. I'd like to congratulate you on taking this. Is this the first year that you've been doing this, or have you done this in past years?
We've had intervention in past years,
Okay.
but not, we've redefined what we do because we
Okay.
weren't being as successful as we
Okay.
needed to be.
Is this your school goal?
This wasn't an overarching goal, no.
Wow.
But this is where we have a real good team at our building, so I would say it's not just me doing this, but our whole staff just roots around these things. And you talk about the culture isn't just me doing it; it's all of us together and
Yes.
as a teamwork.
Yes.
And we have a really open relationship to say that we push each other. And this is some of the pieces that, some of the staff's like, I can't do this because I just don't know how to. And it was an eye-opener to say, yeah, we're asking you to do something that you don't have the skills to do. And it's not the teacher's fault of their own. We have to help provide those skills to our staff to give those to our teachers.
Right.
So that's, I would say the one thing that we probably did the best was we listened to our teachers.
Well, that's good.
Compete.
That's good, because, they come with a variety of skills and
Mm-hmm.
abilities, and just like the students do, so that's great.
Along the area of culture, I have to commend your staff, and your first if-then statement dealt a lot with the elements, and most of us got to see your kids at the Celebration of Excellence talking to us about the Diversity Club and relationship building among the students. And those kids did a bang-up job in explaining what's going on over there, and it was very convincing that it's working.
Thank you. Wonderful, and I appreciate what you're doing. Ms. Vanacek?
Last question. Who caught that? Who caught that data of the intervention?
There was multiple different aspects of it. Our e-sale data, we have our RTI group, our RTI team saw that. There was some triangulation of data that we're just identifying that, wait a second, we're missing this group. Why is these kids slipping through? Why do we see this kid repeating? There's just different things that, when you put them together, they say, the data can be tweaked however you want to tweak it or make it look. And when you lay it out the right way, it's going to tell you a strong message.
Sure, absolutely. Mr. Dietz?
Any plans, Jason, or for your team for following kids up after they've been dismissed from intervention to make sure that they continue to be successful?
That's a very good question. Yes, that's because we want to make sure it is a stopgap. And the only way we're going to make sure is if we do follow them along, because who knows, it could be next year or 2 years later, then we're actually not creating a stopgap. But yes, so we're actually worked with our tech team, Ali Poff, on creating a spreadsheet and then using Wise-Local to create a cohort to be able to follow these groups.
Do your kids go to 2 high schools or 3?
Primarily west and north.
North, yeah.
And I know one of the things that I like most about the intervention is that we do have them in the class, and I know it doesn't track the kids long-term once they leave us. But what's great about that is we get to see them and see if they are implementing it within the classroom even before we exit them. So I know it's not long-term, but that is something that we can track, while they are with us, yeah.
Now, are these kids regular education kids,
All
special education?
Correct, all regular ed.
Wow. Well, thank you
guys.
very much. Outstanding job.
Yes.
What a way to help kids, be successful. Wow.
I want to say thank you too, because I see your faces out in the community, and you are all familiar. Some of you have had your children, but it's good to see you at Waukesha 1 and those other opportunities. So
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say, this group of board members is committed. Okay, looks like that's it for tonight. We've been at it 2.5 hours. All right, the next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be Tuesday, April 4th, 6 p.m. in the Lindholm Boardroom, and I thank the people in the audience for your patience and taking turns, and to the board members, thank you very much for your participation, your questions. Thank you. Meeting is